My paper looks at the history and evolution of drinking water security in Bangladesh through the construction and interpretation of public risk narratives in the media. As many people may know, Bangladesh is one of the most densely populated countries and has one of the largest engineered river systems in the world at the foothills of the Himalayas. So I was particularly interested in how specific issues were problematized and which ones became part of the public narratives and perhaps which ones didn't. So to do this, I looked at an inventory of over 3,200 newspaper articles identified in the Ittifaq newspaper. It's one of the country's largest, oldest continually published papers that specifically talk about drinking water in the articles themselves. So there's a couple key results. The first was that the content was largely clustered into 3 periods, which reflect which aligned with the political and economic events and developments. The second was that the number of articles per year varied significantly. There was a large number in the 80s and 90s with a very sharp decline after 2005, perhaps as part of the fatigue of reporting on arsenic. Another key finding was that where newspapers were placed on pages shifted significantly. In the 80s, cholera was frequently on the front pages. By the 90s, when arsenic was considered one of the most severe contaminations and concerns, it rarely appeared on the front pages of the Ittifaq. It was mostly on the national pages. So there's some really interesting variation in the way specific articles are covered, where they're covered, and which specific topics are being discussed. So there's several implications from this work. The first is that there's a mismatch between the way the newspaper reports and problematizes issues and that of the scientific or technical communities. The second is that the newspapers rarely identify vulnerable subgroups such as women, children, or the poor, whereas government policy prioritizes those groups. And finally, the way in which the media or newspaper articles assign blame seems quite significant for how responsibility is assigned within the governance structure. And for that, I'll be writing a second paper.